How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Stranger Things Into the Fire. This is the third Stranger Things comic from Dark Horse Comics. I have all 4 issues for you guys, and this is collected as a trade paperback. For those of you who want to buy the whole story at once and read it all at once, that is out for you guys. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the covers to each one of these things. Get them in focus for you. So there's Stranger Things 1, you get Ricky and Marcy there, and you get a fantasy element of a princess behind them. And I have all the A covers, and you'll note that for every cover in the series, they've kept this blue, green, and orange aspect, this color scheme. So it helps tie them all together and keeps them consistent. Then you get Marcy and number 8 there with, again, the fantasy princess in the background. Here, you get the princess and then the penguin nurse behind her, which is kind of a fun cover, a little fantasy there. And the final cover, the broken mirror right there. And so yeah, those are the covers for this series. Jumping right in, I'll show you guys a little bit of the artwork. I'll keep it primarily to issue 1 because I want to avoid spoilers, but I will have to show you guys a page from issue 2. But anyway, jumping in, let's go ahead and take a look at the credits for you guys so you can see who did this book. It's written by Jody Houser and pencils by Ryan Kelly, and you get the previously on up there. Now, the Stranger Things Dark Horse Comics is the 3rd run. The first was Wolf's perspective in the Upside Down, and that's more related to the show, and it's more of its own thing right there. The next part, number 6, was about number 6, obviously, another girl in the Hawkins lab, and you get to see kind of what the lab was like when it was more operational. Stranger Things Into the Fire is a direct sequel to 6, and I would definitely recommend reading that one first. But if you haven't read it, or if it's been a while, because it's been a while since this comic came out, there is actually a really good previously on page, which I should mention, it's hard to talk about the plot of Into the Fire without talking about number 6, so there will be some spoilers for Stranger Things 6 here. But anyway, I really love this previously on page. It does a good job of catching you right up in pretty much just 3 panels, but yeah, so you get to see there's the lab in operation, the sister gets pushed too far, she's in a coma, they escape the lab, Ricky and Marcy make it out, and number 6 unfortunately gets shot. And that's really everything you need to know really quick, and I have to give this panel, this page a big thank you, because it had been a while since I read number 6, and that jogged my memory right up, and I was ready to go for this story. But basically, you get Ricky and Marcy, number 3, I believe, and number 9.5, they're trying to live a normal life, pretending to be brother and sister and just being out on their own, but then they discovered that the Hawkins lab has closed, which would put this comic after season 2 of the TV show. So finding out it's closed, they're curious about the fates of the other kids. So they decide to leave their life here, and they, move around quite a lot anyway. And they're going to go and try to find any of the other kids that they can. And they got, for this series, they got their big van that they drive around in, Now, the first kid that they come to is number 8, and they don't run into her till like the very end of this issue, but they finally see number 8 there from that spin-off episode of season 2 there. Now, on the trade paperback cover, they put her really big, and it kind of seems like she's more in the story than she actually is. She's not in it too terribly long, so this isn't like a sequel to that episode. It's just she's in it for a minute. Now, the page from issue 2 that I have to show. So basically, they learned from 8 that number 9 is still alive, and you find out what happened to her. She was told by the Hawkins lab that her sister ran away and left her and abandoned her, and she gets really emotional and upset by that, as you obviously would. And you don't want someone with fire powers getting too emotional and crazy, so what they do is they use 8's illusion powers to give her a nice, happy, fanciful place, but unfortunately they use that too much, and that kind of drives number 9 crazy, which, you know, leads back to this first page of the comic here. She's fantasizing that instead of in an asylum, she's in a big castle. She's a princess with a mask on that's locked away, and she sees all her doctors and nurses here as fantasy characters, which is why she sees this one nurse as a penguin. So it's a cool fantasy element that gives this thing a unique flair, but yeah, the whole comic is going to be Ricky and Marcy trying to find number 9 and save her and get her back, but of course she is very dangerous. So it's a on-the-road mystery type deal, road trip type movie, and you know, you get to see Ricky using a lot of his Jedi mind trick powers, and you actually find out that 9.5 doesn't have any powers of her own, and that number 9 was the only one that had any powers, which is probably why she didn't get a whole number and was stuck to a decimal point. But that's sort of one thing with this comic. A few things. So if you see the trade, you see number 8 really big on the cover. She's not in it too terribly much, although she did technically start this whole thing, so you need to know that going in. The other thing is, I would strongly recommend reading Stranger Things 6, because this is all about these two characters, and even though there is enough previously on to have you guys know what's going on, even if you haven't read it, I don't think you'll get the emotional weight without having read that story first, because, you know, it's really following these two characters, and without their setup, it's not going to be as impactful. But the other thing that I really have to mention with this, and this is going to be the thing that kind of turns some people off, so Stranger Things, the Stranger Things feel, you get kind of three things. You get the characters like Eleven and Hopper and Dustin, the ones we all love. You get the 80s setting with its pop culture references, which everyone loves, and then you get the sci-fi superpowers element, the parallel dimensions, the telekinesis and stuff. And with this book, you get a little bit of the characters. You get number 8, but that's pretty much the only, you know, TV show character in here. And you do get, technically it's in the 80s, but there's not as much pop culture references. And you do get some superpowers, in particular 9 and Ricky there. But it's, yeah, it's primarily just Ricky's Jedi mind trick stuff. So there's not too many superpowers. So basically, this really does feel like a story that takes place to the side in the Stranger Things universe. It just, you know, it's in there, but it doesn't feel like, you know, it doesn't feel really Stranger Things-y, because, you know, it is missing a lot of these elements. You know, there's not a ton of pop culture, there's not a ton of TV show characters, and there's not a ton of superpowers. It's a on-the-road mystery trying to track someone down from the last story. So yeah, if you haven't read the last story, you don't have the emotional investment, and this doesn't really do too many Stranger Things things. But that being said, as someone who read the last story, I was really wanting to know more about the characters, especially the way that, you know, 6 ends with them just running off and going, well, I hope we'll be safe. So it's the conclusion that I wanted, but for the people that just want to jump in and read a Stranger Things adventure, you might not feel that, you know, you could just jump into this one as well as you could, say, 6 or the Will story. But anyway, that being said, I did like it, but, you know, there's a few things you need to know going into it, and that's that. But anyway, a fun story, but definitely check out 6 first. That being said, I try to do a comic a week on this channel. I have been doing that for the past bit, so if you're into comics, I'll have more coming soon. I do primarily horror movies on this channel, so if you like horror movies, stick around. I'll have more to come, more of that, more movies. But to everyone who's watched this far, thank you for watching, and to everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. And if you look down at the bottom somewhere, there should be a playlist to my other comic book reviews, and I do have a review for Stranger Things 6 in there. Anyway, I'll see you guys again very, very soon, and have a good day.